Jay, can you hear? Can you hear Jay? Yes. Jay, can you hear us now? You there? Okay, we can't hear him.
All right, we're going to continue our meeting that we started when we went to closed session tonight. We interviewed people for the Planning Commission. We're here on March 20th. It's a Monday. All the commissioners are in attendance, as well as town staff Wadios, town staff Niles. And thanks, everybody, for being here tonight, and thanks for participating in the first round of interviews already. Before we get started, Jeff, if you don't mind, since you just arrived, if you could lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for Jeff. Thank you for that, Jeff. I appreciate it. Announcements. Who's ready to go on announcements first? Anybody wants to volunteer? Martin will go first, and I'll get Jeff after that.
I just have two brief announcements. I was fortunate enough to attend the cemetery cleanup last weekend with Link and a bunch of other great people, and that was really, really fascinating and interesting and hard work. And the only other announcement I have is that most of you are probably aware my neighbor, Randy Davis's wife, is having a pretty major surgery tomorrow, so keep her in your thoughts and prayers and whatever you do in that regard.
Thank you for
That's
that.
all I got.
Yes. Very good. Jeff, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I would like to announce also that the fire department is having a spaghetti and meatballs dinner on April the 22nd. It'll be in the evening. And please watch Facebook for details. Should be very good. Also want to make a mention of several things from the Poolsville Seniors Club. So there's going to be a White's Ferry pop-up walk on March 20, what is that, tomorrow? No, what is it? March 22nd at 10 a.m. And you can register on the Poolsville Seniors website. Also, there will be a movie night, A Man Called Otto. Oh, thank you. A Man Called Otto, that is on March the 24th at 7 o'clock. So again, you can register for that on the Poolsville website. Also, did you know, maybe Link did, that Lucy Wright Trundle, and there's a road in our area called Trundle Road, which, by the way, there's two pieces of it that doesn't connect, so it's always a bit of a challenge responding to those addresses. Anyway, was the first woman member of the Montgomery County Board of Education. Additionally, there's a mural contest. So if you're a young artist in the 6th to the 12th grade, attending Poolsville High School or John Pool Middle School, or living in the area, be sure to let the Poolsville seniors know, and you can sign up for their mural contest. Also, there's several other things here. Well, I should have had more again. And then coming up in April, there is a April 6th European travel planning. That's at 7 p.m. So that'll probably be by Zoom. April 11th, naval medicine during the Civil War. That's very interesting. Historic Ag Reserve properties, April the 16th. And bingo, the Poolsville seniors are having bingo on April the 18th. And that's what I had for announcements. Thank you.
Great. Sarah? Nothing from Sarah. Ed?
Actually, mine will fall underneath when I do my committee report to there.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Same thing, I'll probably chime in on fair access when we get to that point, but I did want to, Martin mentioned it, that Randy Davis's wife right next door is getting ready to have a pretty major surgery, and I just wanted to make sure that all of us, commissioners, people out there in YouTube land, our residents, take time to have a positive thought for her, and it's a big deal. And she's just, one of the greatest members of our community. So, yeah. So we'll she'll be in my prayers, and I'm not going to tell anybody else to pray for her. But whatever kind of positive thoughts you want to have, that's what we need to have going in her direction. So, and the people out there that are listening, not just now but later, if you could do the same, we'd appreciate it. And we've got more stuff to come, but I will deal with that when we get into the committee reports. So, Martin, are you ready to go for the Planning Commission?
Sure. We met last week, last Wednesday, and it was kind of a big meeting. It was Kevin's last meeting, as you know. We heard from Sustainable Poolsville, who Danny Embry was pretty adamant about wanting to have a bigger part in the comprehensive plan. He wanted Sustainable Poolsville to have a bigger part. And there's a lot of discussion about, like, he threw out the example of the rubber tire chips at the park that may or may not be removed at some point. And he's like, if you guys had consulted us, we could have told you that that's not a good idea. And it does seem like there needs to be better communication between the boards. I don't know how to best do that. I mean, there was discussions about maybe that, we should have representatives on the board, whatever. I don't know the best way to do it, but it does seem like, that it would be advantageous if, like, everyone communicated better with that board. I know he thinks that. He felt strongly about that. We heard from the Jamesons on the Bricken concept plan, or preliminary plan, that is the 60-some homes over on West Willard, across the street from the Lennar homes that are fairly new. And there's a couple things that they need to do, and a motion was made, and we agreed to table it until next month, and hopefully they're going to come back with a few things that need to be fixed, not fixed, but like addressed. And lastly, we dealt with the housing chapter of the comprehensive plan, and that was a bear. There was a lot of information on that, and we digested it, we talked about it, and there's going to be more discussion of that chapter, I would assume. But again, we're trudging along, making progress, and I haven't heard of any major delays. These things tend to be delayed a little bit, but we're making progress, and Wallace Montgomery seems to be doing a pretty good job. Would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely are.
Yeah. So that was the marathon meeting last week of the Planning Commission.
The committee reports, and I'm glad you brought it up. A little bit concerned about, like I would call it, not undue influence of committees on other committees. And I understand that there's a lot of groups that want to have a seat at the table, and they deserve a seat at the table. All of our committees are important, and they all have they have their mission. But I would say if we ever did anything that kind of considered changing our structure, which we're not going to deal with that tonight, but if we're going to have some sort of structural changes, I would just remind all the committees that they fully have the right to come up and provide testimony at every single meeting. They can follow every meeting. Every meeting's televised. They have the ability to consult with Wade or Niles on what we have going on. So they, I appreciate and have already seen the work that the Sustainable Poolsville Group has already done to provide their input. But I would just say I would remind them, changing the actual structure of committees is probably not in play. But what would be in play is, again, coming in, testifying, being lined up, being on the agenda. Don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I don't, without, I haven't thought this thing through too much, but I don't think there's any need for a structural change so much as the very first thing you need to probably do is just figure out how we can better communicate. That's all. And that I think would probably solve it. I mean, and if it doesn't, we can figure it out at that time. But I think it's just, I don't know if it's, I don't know how to do that, how better to do that, but it doesn't sound like a hard, insurmountable problem, like just having better communication, and then that might prompt them to come in and testify or, ask questions or whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we should structurally change anything at this point.
What's on that?
Yeah, just, probably one of the things that could happen is if there's dialogue between just the different committee chairs, and maybe that dialogue funnels through the two of you, between Wade and Niles, and then after those meetings, though, just those minutes being shared with you all, and then all the chairpersons for each committee has access to the minutes, and so anyone can go back. The public, anybody can go back and read that, and so maybe just having that discussion with those different committee chairs and saying, hey, what can we do to help facilitate? When I say we, I'm talking about them as committee chairs. What can be done just so there's a flow of information, or when should you go out and look at those minutes, so you'll know what's going on, because I do think there's a lot of collaboration. I know Don with Sustainable Poolsville, he'll reach out to Wade or he'll reach out to Niles, and so if there's anything that might be beneficial for any committee to hear from another committee, then just let them remind them that the channels of communication are open. Right, and then that might prompt someone, if they need to go and testify in front of the whole committee, that at any time you could come and make public comments at any of the committee meetings.
I look at the look on Wade's face, and I'm going to try and see if you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking here. So go ahead, see if you guys. see if you can channel me here. The only thing I would say about that is that, so first of all, the minutes are, they have to be approved. But YouTube does not have to be approved. If it's broadcast, it's available to whoever's out there. So maybe the committees could be a little more organized in terms of, they could organize a viewing party. They could do things that would enable them to be as informed as they possibly could be to get all that together. But it doesn't always coincide. Minutes and YouTube don't coincide necessarily together, which is not great, but that's also structure. Minutes have to be approved.
Like the viewing party, like that was a party.
I'm gonna try, somebody cook, somebody make some wings, whatever. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to add, especially the Sustainable Poolsville Committee is a resource for us, and I think it behooves us to, use them as a resource and include them in the planning and development of any of our projects, whether it's the planning and development or the parks and streets. It is almost like they are a foundational principle that we are trying to operate by, right? We are trying to create a sustainable, viable, healthy town, municipality. And I don't know why we would outright rule out a changing of the structure. I don't know why it's siloed so that Sustainable Poolsville is its own committee, as if sustainability isn't an underlying principle for everything that we're doing. I think especially with that particular committee, I wonder if it would make sense to have a person from the committee assigned to each. Maybe not fair access, I don't know, I'm sure there's crossover there, but especially planning parks. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, I think it's worth further conversation.
They could do that. They could do that today. The Sustainable Poolsville Committee could, could create their own membership and have people assign people to it and report back to their group. And that's available right now. And I agree. I don't necessarily see the total merging of Sustainable Poolsville and planning. They're definitely two different things. But
Sure.
I understand
not
that.
the merging, but yeah.
Yeah, I understand the consideration.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. So so that's not what you were thinking.
So, we do have a process in place to address it. Maybe we're just not utilizing that process to the best of our ability. We do have a liaison to every board, which is each commissioner. I know Jeff probably does it the best. He takes his notes that he brings here and from his committee, shares it with everybody. But then he takes everything that everybody says and he puts his notes together and he takes it back to the Parks Board. That's kind of the way it's supposed to work in general. You do it, very, very well. But it's supposed to work that way. And staff can jump in and help. We're not trying to give you guys more work, but we have that tool in place, and we're not using that tool to its fullest ability, I believe. And staff, can help jump in there too, but it's there.
I just want to add my 2 cents on that as well. And regarding the Sustainable Poolsville, now, when we were, was it last commissioners meeting, we were talking about the trash contract? And I think the Sustainable Poolsville did an excellent presentation. And they brought some things, certainly to my, to my mind, that I hadn't thought about. And then I believe we decided at the last meeting that we were going to go for dual stream, which was a suggestion, or maybe even a recommendation from the Sustainable Poolsville folks. And I wouldn't have really given that a whole lot of consideration other than what I learned for that evening. I just want to make a mention on the rubber mulch, and we might have had the horse before the car, so the horse before the cart or the cart before the horse, I'm not quite sure. And so what we have done is stopped. Now, of course, the Westerly Grove is brand new, and that was already in the works. So, but what we have done is not added any more rubber mulch, and we're waiting for a result from the EPA, and then that'll determine if, in fact, the rubber mulch is going to be removed and replaced by, regular mulch. Or I'm not sure what the word for the regular mulch is. Wooden mulch. Yeah. So, because it's not that should necessarily be the deciding factor, but removing the rubber mulch, and there were benefits to it that we considered before going forward with rubber mulch, and that was it lasts so much longer, it provided a better impact, safety for the children when they climbing around and such. And I don't think there was anybody, certainly it wasn't myself, that anybody kind of predicted that children would put the stuff in their mouth. So that's always an unknown what children will do. So maybe that's a consideration for lots of things. So, but I hope that we do get more input because I agree with Sarah. I think sustainability has to be just kind of an underlying foundation from many things. So thanks for that.
But I'm just saying that structurally, I think that there's room for them to do that we can get what we need from them. That's in existence. And Wade's already handed Jeff the gold star for his forehead for doing the best reports. And the rest of you should be, take note. Right, waiting for your gold star. So appreciate that. Believe it or not, this conversation started way back with Martin's Planning Commission report. So appreciate which you did complete. Thank you. Which you did complete.
A while ago, but you might not remember it.
That's right. No, I did. I opened up the floor for it. It's fine. And now Ed,
Waiting
since
on my gold star, Wade.
no, not yet.
Good report.
Only one per meeting. And speaking about that, Ed now will report on Sustainable Poolsville.
Yeah, absolutely.
And give us all your details.
Well, sure, I'll give you all my details. Well, you all witnessed when the Sustainable Poolsville Committee was here last time, the presentation that they've done, and an excellent presentation. If we go back, Jeff had learned something about the dual streaming. If we go further back, we'll see that they are an active part when needed. And so I will take that platinum star to go with that. Speaking of other things going on with the Sustainable Poolsville, the campaign that's been going on, the Pick It Up Poolsville, and so that had a good turn. We had a decent turnout on March 11th at Helmholtz Park, so we got a couple of bags. Of course, I got drafted to go out there and help, but some folks showed up to do that. Thank you, Niles, for pushing those emails out for people to sign up. The next Pick It Up Poolsville will be at Stevens Park on April 1st, and then there's on the webpage starting tomorrow on the Sustainable Poolsville tab, there'll be a link where people can go and sign up on the Sign Up Genius to come. Kids can get SSL hours. Then so that's April 1st, and then the next one after that is April 12th. So that's moving right along. And then we have the young man who's a Boy Scout for his Eagle Project doing the Monarch Pollinator on March 25th. So that's happening this weekend, and that's going to be at the Wooten Avenue near Collier Circle, and they're building a half-acre pollinator. So there are some great things going on. With the Sustainable Poolsville, one of the things that they would like to have is just being able to share thoughts and opinions. I've encouraged them to go ahead and share thoughts and opinions. I don't think the structure needs to be changed. I think we can go back and look at the processes, and one of the things that everyone has the opportunity to do is to attend any committee meeting they would like to go to. So when I go back to the next Sustainable Poolsville meeting, I'll reiterate that you can assign a person that can go, and if the need arises and you need to have a testimony, just like we do here when the need arose some time ago with the trash issue. They came in, they did their homework, prepared, and got on the agenda and made a presentation. So that's it. Any questions?
Platinum star
I'll take it. Thank you.
level
By force or
reporting.
by choice?
Right.
You said something that, and this is,
No, it's
Not
one
as
up.
good.
this
I'm just messing with you. Gotta have a little fun. Go ahead, Martin.
is not a question, but I wanted to make while I'm thinking of it, Ed reminded me. I got an email from the town that was, I thought, really well done. It had basically like a whole bunch of different things that were going on. It had the apply for the planning commission, just everything that was going on, and I thought that was really well done. I don't remember seeing one like that before, but it was good.
Yes, so that came from, we discussed this actually at the budget hearing, so about changing sort of modules on the website. So one of them is this module called Civic Sends, and so they create responsive templates and things like that. So if you read the email on your phone versus on, it's all responsive to what you're looking at. So that's where I've tried to do and take some sustainability things, planning commission vacancy, the jobs for the parks department, all that stuff ends up in those type of emails. So I'm trying to build that out. I've done one a month so far since December. I've done two this month just because of what's going on. And as we build out looking at probably doing something like, twice a month or more depending on the content, so.
I thought it was really well done. And I do think people in this town, because it's a small town and tight-knit and everything, I do think they pay attention to it and read it, and it was very informative, I thought. So well done, both of you.
So far, we've gotten really good open rates on the emails and things like that, so that's been very good.
No, thank you. Thanks for bringing it up, too. Right. 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 Ed, tear your star in half, share it with Niles. Oh, that's very generous of you. Looking out for town staff. It's amazing. Good for you. All right, Sarah, go ahead. Tell us what you got for fair access, and I'll back up if you're missing anything.
Okay, fantastic.
Yep.
So just a reminder that the work that we do with Fair Access Committee is designed to promote and make sure that Poolsville community and the surrounding area around Poolsville has access to the same resources and services that members of our county, down county, have access to. So we've been investing a lot of time getting to know our new council members and making sure that they really know us and how we're different than the rest of the county and how our needs are different from the rest of the county. So I won't list all the different meetings that we've had, but we've continued to meet with many different council members and or their representatives, staff members. The 2024 operating budget was released, and it does contain money to pay for wellness staff members for the high school, which is exciting. So while we won't, it's in a temporary place now, and then once the high school, the new part of the high school is built, those staff members will work in that part of the high school. So that's exciting. It is not the expanded sort of clinic wellness center, but we are hoping then we will get that in the community center. White's Ferry continues to be an issue that we are moving forward as best we can. Right now, we are working on promoting and circulating some videos, promotional videos about White's Ferry and the work that we're doing on the Fair Access Committee. So sending that to some targeted folks and reaching out. We will be reaching out to our, I don't know what you call it, a muster campaign, to the folks who have signed up to participate and support Fair Access. So that you can all help us do that, continue to put pressure on our county and state representatives to continue to push that issue forward. Is there anything, Jim, that you want to add specifically to that?
No, I think you hit the mark. I was just thinking that I'll be putting this out there, but I mean, just in the last 5 days alone, most of us attended the historical discussion on the Rosenwald School, which was absolutely amazing at Old Town Hall. That was like kind of kicked off the Wednesday of not seeing my family that kind of went all the way through of just the people we met with. And I mean,
Some incredible people there.
the Fair Access Committee is just very dynamic, and it's there's a lot of demands on the team. Appreciate everybody's efforts. Link is running our show and doing an amazing job of it. But just in the last Wednesday night, we were with them on, was it Friday that we were with David Trone? We did his grand opening of his Frederick office, so it was pretty amazing. We're at the Frederick office of the ribbon cutting for David Trone, Congressman Trone. He mentioned Poolsville like 5 times. Like, sorry, Frederick.
And Thursday,
yeah.
you were with Will Jawando, Kate.
Yeah, I missed that one, but then we had,
Or
the
Link
committee
was
was
there. I was sick, so I
with Will
wasn't there,
Jawando and Marilyn Balcom. Then we went, was it Thursday night that we did the committee? Thursday night, we all went to the committee meeting where, MML meeting where the entire council was there. So that was all of the council members and a lot of good discussion and bringing up of Poolsville. Friday, we met with another council member,
Kate Stewart?
Kate Stewart, right. We met with Kate Stewart, her staffer, Friday during the day. That was another good meeting and a way to kind of introduce us to get it,
Today with Don Ludke.
Yeah, today with Don Ludke, and then the meeting that we had with Kate Stewart also included WUMCO and other community members. I mean, So this has been a full-scale blitz of getting to know these council members and really doing our advocacy out there. And I just want to say, everybody, the commissioners that show up for it, appreciate it, guys. The Fair Access members, we all have a role. We're schmoozing and getting to know people, and it's driving the investment, and it's driving the issues. So we just got to keep working hard and plug away at it and stay and keep Link propped up. So
We did, with Link drafted it, but we did send a letter to the governor about White's Ferry. Just add that as well too. Anyway, so lots of movement forward.
Yep.
We're doing it.
And then the only other thing I wanted to bring up, which is not really fair access, but it is something we have to talk about a little bit more. Ed touched on it. The pollinator that's going in, the monarch butterfly pollinator. If you go to Stevens Park, there's a lot of ground turned up there, where they're getting ready to plant these. He's getting ready to plant these pollinators. I think it's one of the single most impactful things that we've had a scout member do in Poolsville. 400 Maryland straight native species pollinator 1 gallon plants placed in 7 total gardens. Yes, there will be milkweed. I like that he put that. A lot of education signs. 7 different gardens. It's an Eagle project, but it's also for his BSA Distinguished Conservation Service Award. They have to complete 2 large-scale environmental projects that may have make a proven impact on the environment. This is the first project that he's doing, so I can't wait
Wow.
to see what he's working on the second one. Do we already know what he's doing on the second one yet? He's got to get done with this one first. This is a lot. So
Could lead to some great education, community education opportunities about native.
yeah,
landscaping
and he has
plans.
he has a great education plan for this too, and he'll be also presenting at Springfest to talk about it. And it's last but not least, it's he says he's got over 100 hours in the planning of this one alone. So, and our guys have done a great job, and Preston, of course, has been working hand in hand with him, town staff. You guys have done a great job. So, and he's also got contributions. That's why I'm reading this off. Dave Ashley Signs, Christopher's Pizza, Fine Earth Landscaping with Bernie Mibb, Ed Reed on the Sustainable Poolsville Committee. So lots going on, and I'll be doing a much bigger post on this because I'm so proud of what he's doing and how big a deal this is for the town and for Stevens Park, for the monarch butterfly. So super cool adventure there. All right, I've ran out of that on that one. If that's anybody has anything else on committee reports? Oh yeah, sorry Jeff. Save the best and longest for last.
To enjoy the outdoors and invites the climbing community into the town of Poolsville. Additionally, Sugarloaf Mountain already offers climbing opportunities. Mr. Velo has brought the Potomac Appalachian Club Mountaineering Section and the DC chapter of the American Alpine Club to include these knowledgeable groups into the conversation. Mr. Velo suggests to start with one synthetic boulder and add more as interest, popularity, and usage grows. The different sides of a boulder could be scaled from easy to difficult for junior climbers to more advanced climbers. From a climber perspective, the more problems, the better. Each side of a boulder should be designed with numerous threaded fittings. The fittings allow for the boulder to be configured with different holds, which essentially make different problems, and feels like feels like a different and all new climbing boulder. The community could be engaged to develop a beginner, moderate, and advanced problem. Mr. Strong from Clark and Azara is working to gather bouldering park information from Montgomery County to add to the body of knowledge for Poolsville. Mr. Strong suggests that the Parks Board plan everything out, filling the area with boulders. That's Dr. Dillingham Park, that is, over by the skate park. And then complete the project over time, piece by piece, as the budget or grant money allows. Mr. Strong notes that the maximum size is 5,000 square feet without requiring stormwater management. This allows for a sufficient fall zone around the boulders. The Parks Board recommends to the Commissioners to move forward with planning by Mr. Strong. Next topic is Stevens Park lights. The addition of lights at Stevens Park requires resident input before proceeding. Input from resident Mr. Robinson spoke about concerns of bright lights around the pickleball tennis court shining into the homes around Stevens Park. Additionally, the lighting could invite other unwanted issues at night. For clarification, lights only go on when someone starts the timer for 1 hour. So the lights are only on when someone turns them on, and then for only 1 hour. Plus, the lights are directional, pointed down at the courts, and they turn off automatically at 10 p.m. The discussion was reopened of the need of lights at Stevens Park pickleball courts. The use of the pickleball courts generally concludes around 8 p.m. during the summer, when it's actually still light out. The cost of the lights is $60,000. The conclusion was to table the lights at Stevens Park pickleball courts. Assistant Town Manager Niles Anderegg will put out an announcement that the lights at Stevens Park pickleball courts are on hold pending any significant resident feedback. Next topic, storage shed at Helmholtz softball field. PAA, that's the Poolsville Athletic Association President Bill Sherrill, requested the approval to place at PAA expense a storage shed at Helmholtz softball field number 3, plus a slightly larger storage shed at Helmholtz softball field number 2. Or I don't know if I got that backwards or not. The size is approximately 8 feet by 5 feet. The PAA is investing their efforts and money in improving and repairing the softball fields. The PAA is starting to fundraise and trying to reopen the concession stands. The PAA will be responsible that the shed will mostly visually be out of sight and kept tidy. The timing is quite soon to install a shed by late March. A motion was made and approved to approve the request from the PAA to install storage shed at Helmholtz Field number 2 and number 3. Field dedication and field naming policy. Currently, there is a policy for naming parks and streets. Currently, there is no specific policy for naming or dedicating a field at a park. The general consensus was to develop a policy for commissioner approval for field dedications within a park. Niles will share the existing parks and streets naming policy for review towards developing a field dedication policy. Niles noted that there was advertising for an Adventist Health soccer camp at a Poolsville park where the camp charged for participation. Charging a fee is not permitted. Preston's report. We're coming into springtime. The pollinator patch are being tilled and readied for spring. The Eagle Scout plan for the March monarch butterfly area is underway. Other Eagle Scouts have offered to install benches. 3 red maple trees have been planted in Brightwell Crossing, in the loop area of Brightwell Crossing. The Elgin Park trees were trimmed. Allowing an area to return to nature allows the natural grasses to grow, which benefits the trees by retaining moisture. Preston noted that some of the leaf blowers need to be phased out and replaced by battery-operated leaf blowers, which is also a suggestion from Sustainable Poolsville. Preston noted that year by year, the availability of commercial quality battery-powered equipment continues to improve. Gasoline-powered chainsaws are still required in the event of downed trees, a bad storm, or a power failure. Preston's team has been rehabbing field number 2 and converting it for girls' softball use. Preston's team will already start mowing in March. This is the earliest that Preston can recall to start mowing. The ponds are coming back alive and looking good. Preston is looking to recruit summer help. The starting pay is $14.50 per hour, then moves to $15 per hour with a 40-hour work week. The next Park Board's meeting is Wednesday, April 5th, 2023. Love, Jeff.
Can you be a little more detailed next time?
Polish on that gold star. Very good, Jeff. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Jeff? Any other questions for the committee members on their committee reports?
Well, you know,
Yep,
I
go
did
ahead,
forget
sir.
one thing. I apologize, it was an announcement, so so it's a little bit of a plug. So the Upper Montgomery County Volunteer Fire Station is offering CPR classes. There's going to be a CPR class on April the 1st another one on April the 15th, and another one on May the 13th. And they are kind of filling up. There's still some open spots. So please go look on the Poolsville Community Facebook page or the UM's Upper Montgomery County Volunteer Fire Department Facebook page, and you can get the details, and then you can, if you're interested, you can sign up. So please share that around. Thank you.
Jeff, follow-up question. You had said that the Parks Committee recommends that the commissioners recommend that John or Mr. Strong continues with.
Yes.
Is that like an official proposal, or is that just a?
It should be, because Mr. Strong pointed out that it requires him spending time means spending money.
Right,
So yes, thank you for that. Yeah.
okay.
Is that something we should discuss tonight or make a motion on,
Or is that just to like add to a future agenda? What do you,
Future.
okay,
That's a good point, but still probably not tonight.
got it.
Is that it for you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks again for everybody. All right, public comment time. We have one person signed up, Dan. Dan, come on up, identify yourself, and thanks for coming.
Name's Dan Levine. Address is 19601 Mosby Way. I'm here due to the water main break issues that have been going on. And based off of a conversation that I had with Niles and also some of the people that were actually doing the repairs, according to them, and again, I get it, I don't know much about it, but since the end of December, I believe we've now had 11 or 12 water main breaks throughout the older part of the town, which is, I get it. But when you have a really soft winter, what would have happened if we would have had a bad winter? My next door neighbor, handicapped individual, needs help with water, can't flush a toilet for 24 hours, is not acceptable. And I get it. The pipe burst in half. They needed to get an extra piece. They had to call in a contractor, whatever it was. But 11 of them in a short amount of time, it's just simply not an acceptable number. And if I believe what I was told by your own staff that was doing the work, the pipes have not been maintained well in Westerly and Westmont. They have not basically been cared for in the correct way, even though the town is spending money trying to fix it. And I get it. They're old pipes, but they're steel pipes from the 70s. It's 2023. The pipes need to be taken care of. The old part of the town needs to be looked after. And it's that simplistic, because when you have elderly people that need help flushing a toilet because of the fact that somebody needs to pour water into their bowl, or people need to be able to take showers. I had to wake up one morning to take my kid to the gym so he could shower to go to high school because of the fact that there was no water. I get it. Water main breaks happen. They happen all the time, all around the world. But that many, and in the same stretch of road, in one specific spot over in Bodmer, there is, 3-4 breaks all in a row, all within about 2 weeks of each other? That's a lot. That tells me that something's not right, whether it's the town staff isn't equipped to do the work, the town staff is out of their depth doing the work, and it's not saying that they're bad at what they're doing. I'm just asking the question, are they out of their depth? Is it time for somebody outside of Poolsville to come in and start working on these pipes and looking at these older neighborhoods that are literally 1970s pipes sitting on bedrock? So, because clearly based off of them, they even said they were installed incorrectly in the 70s. You guys can't fix what was installed in the 70s that way, but it's time to start digging some of this stuff up and fixing it, because this has literally been one of the softest winters I've ever seen, yet the most water main breaks I think I've seen in 10 years. So that's really all I wanted to come and say and kind of get it officially on record.
Yeah, good. Stay there for a minute. So, and Dan, appreciate you bringing it up. Just everybody knows, this, I've had a Facebook conversation with Dan on this, also an offline conversation with Dan about this. And I ran out of time on all the conjecture back and forth on it, especially when it's town staff really can give you more. And I know you've probably already had some conversation with them as well, but Men, can you care to address 11 or 12? Is that real? And also, too, talk about how the installation, how things were done, our neglect, lack of neglect, what have we done, piece together, no, just do me a favor, piece together the last 20 years in 5 minutes, if you don't mind.
Sure, several questions there, good questions, You're right, this was a soft winter, except it was probably the widest fluctuation in temperature variations we've had in several years. The water tower is sitting up there 158 foot in the air. When it changes from 52 degrees, which it comes out of the ground, that's what the groundwater comes out to be, 52 degrees, sits up there and you have a 9-degree day, that water super cold goes back in, causes a shocking factor on any stress point in the system whatsoever. And so it's going to snap. And so he's right, 12 is probably a good number. I don't know the exact number, but he's probably exactly right. If it was a nasty cold winter where it was frozen the whole time, we would have a lot less. So it's a fluctuation of the temperatures is what causes it. And he's correct about that. We talked about it, the way that the pipe was laid. Several places it's on bedrock, and that is an issue. Ductile iron, though, can go at 80 to 100 years easily in service. And when we take a look at the pipes, we evaluate exactly how they look. So maintaining pipes in Poolsville, there's not really a maintenance thing. The maintenance things we do is circulate the valves, exercise them, and we do the hydrant flushing, which takes any tuberculin or any sediment buildup in the mains out and you flush them. Other municipalities or other places that use chemicals and phosphate removals and things, they can have a slime buildup. If they have iron, or if they have other characteristics in the water that create what's called tuberculin, which is a buildup in the valves and things. We don't have that. We're very fortunate. Our water comes out right about 7, very neutral. And so maintaining the mains is just that, flushing them, and it's done every single year. And we do it better than any other municipality. We attend all the conferences with Maryland Rural Water, and so we see what everybody else does, and we do it right. So I'm not sure who told you that, but I'm going to find out. So.
Their gold star is going to get removed. But no, and the way, talk to us a little bit about and because Dan's raised a good point, it's also good for all the residents to hear it too. Tell us about I know the amount of money wasn't impressive, spent over a long period of time, but to give us the process on how we're evaluating those lines and what we've done in the past to hit some of the points that we know are not necessarily, these are areas where we've seen some chronic
So we do have some.
breakups.
Well, the 2 breaks that happened on Bodmer, it lasted 24 hours. That's the first time we've ever had water out for 24 hours ever that I've been here. And it was actually not caused by fluctuation. There was actually a component of something happened where staff didn't do the correct thing and actually blew a pipe apart. And so they do have the wherewithal to fix pipes, but when you have a linear crack that far, we do bring in a contractor, which we did. And Rick made the calls like, okay, this is above our skill level and what we have material-wise, and so we called a contractor in. That does happen quite a bit.
something that requires heavier equipment than we're able to operate or
Heavy equipment,
utilize.
they have equipment to freeze the lines. I mean, what they have is, that's what they do for a living. They work with WSSC, and so that's all they do, is fix water mains constantly. So you're right, they have the equipment. There was some, part of Bodmer Avenue has concrete base below the asphalt that's this thick. Where we are buying them, we just put it in the budget for a road cutting thing. But typically when we find we have those things, we actually call up another company and also to help us with that. So that mechanism is in place to assist us. So we do evaluate the pipes also. So there are a couple pipes that are identified. Part of Westerly, there's some pipes identified, and part of Wooten Avenue. There's plans sitting on John's desk right now. He's reviewing, going to get us to us. We know we have $2.9 million in the American Rescue Funds. It's ready to be spent. We've already earmarked it for that project, and so it's moving forward. It will be replacing them for the next 5 to 10 years. We'll be replaced. That's all we'll be doing is replacing these water lines. So.
Free to ask questions if you want to. Dan, the floor is yours too. I just kind of want to, it said it was good back and forth on Facebook, but I wanted to give town staff a chance to address it a little bit and talk about it in a little more detail, because I'm not refuting what any of our employees say, but I do know that we've spent an awful lot of time and money and expertise looking at specifically the oldest sections of town, because we recognize that, that said these are approaching 50 plus years old now. And there's, they can last 80 to 100, but at the same time, they need to be addressed and TV'd and looked at, and we've spent a lot of time and money on it. Doesn't mean it's perfect or going to stay in good shape, but there's been a lot of expertise and time poured into the infrastructure specifically for Westerly and Westmont, knowing full well that's our oldest section of town. So I don't know, feel free to contribute, add in.
I have a
Yeah,
question. Maybe
sure.
Maybe for Wade. Wade, I thought the American Rescue Fund money was to reline the wastewater pipes with the liner so that was minimize the infiltration that ends up at the wastewater treatment plant.
That was part of it. When John first initially laid out the plan for it, you guys actually voted for that as well as replacement of water lines. And so we've come to the end of where we are with the wastewater, relining those lines down Fisher Avenue and all that. So that's completed. So we have the 2.9 million left over for our water mains.
Well, just a curiosity, and did you see any, of course, I guess we have to wait for a rainy period. Did you see any reduction in the water ending up at the wastewater treatment plant?
Yes, there is.
Oh, swell. Okay, so it worked. Okay.
It's an up and down thing. If you
Yeah.
have sewer pipes, you have leaks that come and go.
Yeah, it's never ending, for sure.
I just have one question, Wade, and obviously I've known you a long time, so I'm not trying to beat up the town people. And I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that they can or they can't do the work, but in this case, you just said it, somebody made a mistake, which is fine, they're human, they're gonna make a mistake. The area where those pipes are laid incorrectly, sitting on the bedrock, has the town identified all of those areas in those two neighborhoods to be able to say, these are the areas we need to go back and fix at this point to avoid this type of stuff? And is there a way of doing it, whether it's through ground radar, checking what the pipe's sitting on?
I wish we could, and the way we find out is through excavation. We have a water main break, and sometimes you gotta chisel around the bedrock to be able to, put a repair device onto the pipe itself. And sometimes it's not, so we've logged in where we've found it so far, but besides excavating and finding out, you won't know. So what we're gonna do is take a look at whole lines on the whole streets, and you just do it all at one time.
So
It's more efficient that way.
the pieces because there was one on Westerly at White's, Westerly and Chiswell, then there was the three on Bodmer between White's and all the way down to Hughes. Are all those pieces sitting on bedrock?
Several of them were, yes. Yes, they were.
I want to put a historical context because I was just a little kid when these things started happening. But the idea of like doing something besides putting on bedrock doesn't necessarily exist at the time. So you can't really sit there and say, "Oh, that was done wrong, and we need to fix it because it was done wrong." It was not done wrong at the time. It was done the best available way.
Right, but if it was done the best available way back then, and we were talking about sustainable Poolsville, I sat here and listened to you guys all talk about sustainable Poolsville. Water is part of that sustainability.
Yeah.
And if the water is getting dumped back into the ground because there's breaks everywhere, because the pipes were laid correctly for the time, but by today's standards not correctly,
Well, we may not have an
clearly,
alternative.
obviously, there's something that you guys are going to be working on, and I appreciate the fact that some of the lines are going to get replaced. But again, 24 hours, and I get it. You're right.
That's-
I don't even remember a water main break for 24 hours. But that one, that's when I have to go to my next door neighbor and say, "What do you need? How can I help you?" And I don't care. I'll do it. But it shouldn't have gotten to that point. And that's kind of all I'm getting at this point is I want to make sure the town's really paying attention to the two old neighborhoods that need clearly a lot of work when it comes to certain things like the water pipes. And based off of the conversations, like I said, part of this is supporting your own. I'm here to support your staff that basically said that they were a little out of their own depth. And they need the help. I hope the town will put the money forth to get them the help that they need for when they say they are very much out of their own depth.
I don't think they're used to being queried by a professional questioner either, but we appreciate the information on it, Dan. And you've given town halls some different perspective on it, and we'll take action. Link, go ahead. You've got something back there, buddy.
Taking off my hat for the monitor for just a second.
Yeah.
I wanted to make two quick points for you guys that you may not be aware of. One is with respect to the high school. Kevin sent around today an article about Damascus, and their high school was supposed to have a major renovation of $100 million, and it's been delayed 2 years. Their town is meeting right now in an emergency session to try to do something about it. I'm only raising it not to brag about fair access, but just to let you know the budget is going to be tight this year. So while we're in good shape on the budget, I don't think we should take anything for granted. When Jim and I were at the David Trone session, we met the mayor of Brunswick. The same thing happened to them. They were put on the same thing because they're a rural area, they're just not paid attention to, and they were asking us, begging us, how do we do this? So just keep in mind, we're going to need to keep on this, and I thank all of you for your support. With regard to the cemetery, I wanted to thank Martin for coming out, especially. It's great to have commissioners come out for something like that. But one interesting point that just shows you how connected we are as a community, we think, the headstone for Otto Robert Thompson, who is Chuck Copeland's great-great-grandfather. We think we found it. The interesting part about that is that Chuck mentioned in his commentary that he has now discovered that his relatives were actually slaves on a plantation owned by guess who? The Trundles. So we're a very integrated community. There are a lot of aspects of our history that go way back, white and black. And it just struck me, and I was thinking about that maybe we could have one of our Friday in the Commons events that's actually focused on African-American history in some way. Now, I know they're entertaining, so maybe it's not really a good fit, but the idea struck me that might be a good way to bring in some of the community who don't usually come to our activities. Yeah, something like that, too. Anyway, but thanks for coming, Martin.
All right, very good. Dan, thanks for your comments. Good stuff. Link, you too. Anybody else, since we're on it? Go ahead.
I was just going to add, Dan, it sounds like you were a great neighbor, and I'm sorry that you were put in that position. And I just wonder, and this is maybe just something food for thought, what can we do as a town when we have natural disasters that impact, especially our most vulnerable members of the community?
I agree. As he was saying that, I was thinking the exact
yeah.
same thing. That we have
So just
some
something
outreach
to
on
think
our
about,
part with
maybe-
something like that's in that long of a duration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks again, Dan, town staff. All good. Appreciate it. All right, we moved on to the approval of the minutes from March 3rd, 2023. Anybody?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes from March 3rd, 2023.
Motion made, second?
A second?
Second from Sarah. All approval, all voting to approve the minutes of March 6th, 2023, please say yay. Yay. Anybody opposed? No nays? All right, that's been approved. The minutes have been approved 5-0. Old business, trash collection contract award. Go.
Okay, so we had a
Town
nice
staff.
discussion at the last meeting and a presentation by the Sustainable Poolsville Committee regarding dual stream recycling. I think we went in that direction. We did meet with some vendors there were some questions asked if we went from twice a week trash to a single week trash. Whatever they have in their proposal will be good in 2 to 3 years if we wanted to switch up and reduce it. So I don't know what the body's feel is on that, but I think we need to make that decision. And then, we kind of narrowed it down to the particular vendor, it seemed like. And we did interview that vendor today, Jim and I and Niles, and posed a lot of difficult questions for them and how they would handle it. And they have a good team of folks that are ready to go. And I'm fully confident that they're going to be able to do the job. And they've been watching what's going on now, and actually even traveled behind some of the trash trucks and watched some of their methods of picking up stuff, and were just totally shocked that they were allowed to do this and people were actually doing that type of work. So it was just good to hear the professionalism that they have in place and what they plan to do for us.
They were here, we contracted with them a long time ago, didn't we?
We did.
And did they do a good job then?
They did. It was a different world then. There was no, Facebook and
Right.
different things where people could get on their own platform, but they follow the Facebook page, and so they understand it. I mean, so they're in tune with it, and I think having that local aspect really hit home when we had the discussion today. They go back to the yard at 4:00. They plan on being out of town between 12 and 1 each day. We were going to hold them to that. But if they get a phone call at 4:00 and say, "Oh, you got somebody that's missed a trash can here or something, they're gonna come right back out and be able to handle it, whereas somebody from Bladensburg or somewhere, they're not gonna travel all that way back, we just know that already.
Say too that we talked about last time about having a once a week pickup. Sarah was interested in that, and I went back and I sent the survey to everyone, and I had kind of forgotten that the respondents in that survey didn't seem terribly opposed to it. I mean, I forget this percentage, but like people didn't. I was surprised. I thought that question people would have been adamantly opposed, but they weren't. So if this is the direction we choose to move in down the road, I mean, there's some evidence that that's something people are interested in.
I'll give you some more tidbits on this too. So in our conversation today, we did ask a lot of hard questions of Titus. They were, we moved away from them, not necessarily due to performance in the past, but because we wanted to open up the world to what we hoped was going to be better service, and certainly it was less expensive service than it was proposed before. Also, too, they had the ability to do single stream. Bates did. So in our conversations with them today, we addressed, I think, all the issues that we had addressed that we had, we had to put our think caps on and really go back to how our service was operated before. Their infrastructure is basically twice as deep as it used to be now. So they've got more people in place. They've got newer equipment. They've got a better game plan than where they were before. To address the issue on in general, we talked about once a week versus twice a week pickup. And there's two comments on that. One is that they said they watched Bates haul trash while they were doing it. And one thing their walkaway was, we generate a lot of trash. So they said, that definitely starting point is definitely should be twice a week, just because of the sheer amount of trash they saw them pick up, and they followed them. Number two is that
You're saying that Poolsville generates more trash than
Other places in the county.
other places?
potentially, yes, that's what was implied. So,
There's a research question for Sustainable Poolsville.
yeah.
Do we generate more waste and trash than other
And then you
places in
gotta
the
figure how
county?
you're gonna figure it unless you follow through.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
I'm
bought,
so curious.
So anyway, it wasn't a matter of trying to get more service. It wasn't a matter of trying to try to do more business. That was an observation. The second observation is that, back to the way that Titus would potentially do trash, and what they proposed to us is that, again, they're operating strictly on one side of the town per day. So it's not, we thought about, okay, trucks going through town all the time, 4 days worth in order to handle the twice a week pickup. But in essence, they're just in half the town each day that they're here, with the exception of Wednesdays, which is recycling all the way through. Another thing that we addressed was the amount of, Wade touched on it. There's a lot of, we've had trouble with callbacks and pickups and taking addresses and when can they come back, and now it's being moved to this day. First of all, we think we can solidify the dates now ahead of time without having to build in what happens, like Thursday didn't get picked up, so now we got to go Saturday. Our residents have been great having to deal with that BS, but I think that we're going to be in better shape on this go around. Keep your fingers crossed. The other is that the Titus appears to have a much more modern approach to doing trash than they did before. They've grown with the times. And the idea of it being local is back to being important again. And I think that was emphasized several times to us in our meeting with them. So, we felt confident. We really raked them over for about an hour, thinking of every single possible scenario that could be wrong, what we needed fixed, what our residents needed to do. And it was a hard grilling.
I have a question. We heard from Sustainable Poolsville about, I won't go back all through it, but about the advantages of bringing the recycling to the Montgomery County facility versus sourcing it out. Were they okay with that?
That was their plan all along.
Great, perfect.
And that brings up a good point too. We also had,
Montgomery County
Yeah.
only accepts Poolsville.
Correct.
and another point that was raised too, we talked a lot about, probably more, talked about more than they wanted to talk about it, but the bins and how things would be handled with the townhomes and how things would be, different space requirements depending on what the bins are. And the walkaway is that they're going to be delivering, first of all the recycling bins likely will be picked up completely. So they belong to Bates. Everybody will maintain their current trash containers. And we talked about, the three of us talked very specifically about being crystal clear to our residents what we're going to use this transition to bring a new level of accountability out of our residents as well about how they prepare their trash and how they prepare the recycling in order to be as efficient as possible. Like, for instance, putting your trash in bags before you put them in the trash can. That we still have epidemic levels of that not happening, which contributes to trash being scattered all over the town. So we're going to use it as an opportunity, whatever the transition takes place, and we can talk about that in a minute, to re-educate and raise the level of expectation out of our residents. In addition, if it turns out that the bin situation isn't working right for our townhouses, we talked about the ability to switch out how the bins will be handled for recycling, so that if it can be a little more tailored individually to the townhouse owners. We know that there's.
No, a minimum of 3 bins.
It's correct.
Yeah.
And, and some people can keep in their backyard, some people can't. So there's going to be, we kind of hit on all that. We talked about the placement of the bins, how they're going to be placed by the residents and the expectation level of what they get when they're, where they're supposed to be placed, and like continually working with our people to make sure that they have a good protocol, and then Titus can be expected to perform based on the right protocols. So.
Yeah, I think
Am
we
I missing
definitely, after we also talked about getting the tonnage tickets and things, so we're receiving those that we've talked about all along we wanted to get. But then Niles and I afterwards were talking about, we want to do an outreach program in general about recycling and everything, and really use the Sustainable Poolsville team to help. I mean, that's just right up your alley for getting the information together, and, yep.
Did you talk, I guess 2 things. Did you talk about compost, yard waste, that?
They do a
Part of
regular
it?
yard waste, but not composting. They just take it to the Montgomery County facility.
Yard waste they do, okay. So composting would be, as a community, we'd have to figure out a different
That'd be a different
program
vendor
if that's
than-
something we want to pursue.
Yep, which I think, you guys.
Yeah, speaking of compost, right now is in discussion just in the committee level, doing some research. And
Okay.
then once the research is completed, the same thing they'll come out here
Some recommendation or
and
something.
share, educate first,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
give some recommendations.
Awesome.
So.
And my other question,
Oh, sorry.
sorry, just one more question. There are some apps that trash and recycling companies use. One is called, I think it's just called like Recycle Me. Anyways, the company is part of this app system. As a participant, I sign up, and once I give it approval, it can send me text notifications. So every time the trash day or recycle day is switched, I get a notification that says, hey, your recycle day is this day. Is that something you could at least bring to them and say, hey, is this something you do, or do you have your own system for some type of communication with residents? So we know, especially with 2 days potentially, if the holiday's on a Monday, does that mean everything gets best one day, or do they double up on one day? Like, anyways.
Well, we did talk about it today. I think an app might be too far gone for our guys at Titus for right now. But Niles, go ahead. We did talk about this, so.
So that's part of the educational component. So
Okay.
part of what we'll do, starting fairly soon, is say, if the contract is awarded, here's what you are to expect, right? Here's the days, here's how this will go, here's
Okay.
that education piece. And then as we go through it, we'll be reminding people and building upon that so that when it comes. The other part that Titus mentioned is that if people forget which day it is or whatever, they will tag it, they will take it the first day, but they'll leave a notice on your can saying that your day is such and such a day if you put it out on the wrong day. So they're going to also operate it in that framework. The technology aspect is something that we could ask them about, but I know they have GPS tracking of their trucks.
Okay.
But that was just the way we were imagining
Sure.
building up that knowledge over April, May, and June.
Yeah. Frederick County has they work with that app. So anyways, just an example if you wanted to look it up.
And they also, George, go ahead, buddy. Sorry, did I cut off any commissioners? Go ahead.
Just for an aside, my next door neighbor and I, our backyards together with that.
And to your point, George, and to yours, Sarah, I read somewhere, but the percentage of waste that people put into the trash is there's some
30% is kitchen
Yeah, like kitchen waste. So like, I mean, if we could get a composting thing going, that would, help reduce all that excessive trash. The question I have too is, and I'm not saying this for any particular reason, but would Titus be able to step in sooner if needed? I mean, if like, Bates
they-
decided to walk away or something?
If they did, they do have some trucks, but they are purchasing brand-new trucks, a little smaller version of what we see from Bates right now, and hiring new people. So they do have some older trucks that they could bring in if we had to. The recommendation from staff would be to plan right now just to carry the contract out through July 1st with Bates, June 30th, whatever it is, and award the contract to Titus and put them on notice and let them start ordering and ordering the cans, and that those may take a little bit of a time frame to get.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, you know what I'm thinking, like if Bates decides that,
We did have that conversation with them.
Yeah.
And we also asked them more than once to dive deeper into their supply chain for the cans as well as the trucks, so that if things had to move quicker, that they would have the redundancy to be able to help us if it came down to that. So we pushed them pretty hard, and we're actually still kind of awaiting those answers, but I think that we're anticipating that they're going to come back and say it's okay.
Great.
So we did do that.
So where do we stand with this? Like, are we prepared to vote on this?
That is staff's recommendation for Titus trash for the
I like staff
$32.76 per unit.
All right, so does anybody else have anything else they want to talk about?
Well, I just want to ask a question, so, and I know you probably already mentioned this several times, but this is going to be a bump up, right, in terms of the cost?
Yes, as you discussed at the meeting, it's about $200,000 a year, at least more.
Yeah, and did we put this in the budget for fiscal year '24?
Yes, it is.
Okay, swell.
Yep.
Thank you.
It should also be noted that Bates's quote was way higher than it has been.
Correct, it was well over it was $100,000 over the price that Titus trash came in at.
Well, I'm prepared to make a motion if you guys are ready
Yeah,
for it.
I'm ready for it.
Do I need any kind of numbers or anything? Can I just say, I don't see it on here.
We'll just keep it right to the units because units will increase. So the last column right there, and this is the dual stream.
You can say that in the service and dual stream, and then the unit cost.
So, yeah, I make a motion that we approve the 2023 trash proposal from Bates for 2 times a week trash collection. I'm sorry, Titus. From 2 times a week trash collection, yard waste, dual stream recycle for $32.76 per unit. Is that sufficient?
All right, I'll second his motion.
Yeah, definitely not Bates.
Yeah.
Martin has made a motion to award the trash collection contract effective July 1, 2023. And Ed has made a second on that. Do we have any other questions on it and discussions?
Is the unit a home?
Yes.
Okay.
Household?
Yep.
Is that per pickup?
No, that is, that's based, the 32 is based on, not per pickup. It's per, what is it?
It's for the whole package that Martin just read off, for
Yeah.
the twice a week trash, once a week recycle, once a week yard waste, and dual stream recycling.
So it's 30, so I'm just curious.
So that costs one unit, yes, one house was charged $32
$32.76 per week?
per month per home.
Great, thank you. I didn't know that was your question, sorry, I didn't interpret that right. Right, so the unit price has, the motion's been made for the unit price. Hold on for a second now. So we have a motion and we have a second on the floor. I'll entertain conversations from the audience for this moment. Go ahead, Alan, sorry, you raised your hand first. Go ahead.
5-year contract.
Right, and that's what was. Yeah, thank you, it's a good question, Link.
We have. They were on, they had several references that I actually called and spoke with.
Okay.
Yeah.
just wanted to add on that point. We've had Titus Trash collecting at the fire station for ages and ages. They do a good job. And on top of that, they support the Poolsville Fireworks Show. So when they have that big green dumpster can, right, the gentleman brings it, he delivers it there, and it's full up, overflowing. He takes it away, never charges anything. So, yeah, that's hugely appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, they do dumpster service in Poolsville right now too, so we've seen that in action. All right, so we have this, the board has had a motion and a second. The audience has hopefully been satisfied. Dan, anything from you? You're the only one. Okay, you're staying silent. Town staff, you've already given us a recommendation. Unless we have any other reason to do it, let's have a vote on the motion that's been made, one of the biggest contracts that we'll award of all time. All those in favor of the motion that has been presented, please say aye. 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 Anybody opposed? None. Thank you very much. Welcome back, Titus Trash.
Great news.
We missed you. All right, town staff, again, thanks for all the hard work on that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That was good stuff. And just before next order of business is the grocery co-op, I did want to say Alan Hobbs, who is also submitted for the planning commission position, is in the audience. That's who's in the back in the checkered shirt back there. So for all the commissioners to know who that is.
Thanks for being here.
Yep, appreciate it, Alan. Thanks for coming in and doing your homework. All right, grocery co-op. Niles, thank you so much for printing this out. I appreciate it. Our unofficial committee, co-op committee, requested that Dakota Worldwide Corporation, who is basically a market analysis company, is the one that we've heard from several different co-ops on who can perform the best market analysis for potentially bringing a co-op to Poolsville. They have submitted a proposal that everybody has a copy of right now. You can see where they've broken down what the expectations out of the analysis, including some travel fees, et cetera. The cost looks like it's going to be a little under $10,000 for them to perform this market analysis. We do have a business development line item in our budget. It's got $28,000 in it. This is probably right up the alley of that, as far as I'm concerned. And I appreciate the work that the co-op committee, Link included, has done on trying to see if we're ready to take this to the next level. I want to propose that we vote on applying that budget line item to engaging this company, but I'm also willing to hear any other discussion on this and want to hear what, if town staff, commissioners, anything to say about it beyond what's been supplied.
So I just, one thing that jumped out at me is it says the travel fee will run about $2,000. Is there some kind of like stipulation that they can't stick us with like $5,000 for travel fees? You follow me?
Yeah.
Have to do whatever.
Down at the Brown Estate?
Maybe we may have some space.
Maybe that truck in the front?
That's gonna be our
Yeah.
first,
The
our
truck's
first bed and breakfast.
Right.
Yeah.
Please, dear Lord, not have my wife watching this YouTube right now.
On a serious note, I mean, I think that, like, you know, we've heard this time and time and time again that people really want a grocery store. So I think, you know, this is a lot of money, but it seems like it's well spent money, because hopefully it's getting us closer to something that I think most people really, really want here. So
And we have funds in our economic development pool for exactly this kind of stuff. And this seems like a fantastic investment for those.
I just want to add my, I don't know, I don't want to be negative, but, and I think we should go forward with this by all means. I just keep coming back to the same thing I've been saying for a long. And if you were to ask anybody in Poolsville, did you shop, and I don't want to say the name over and over again, did you shop at Selby's? Virtually everyone would say yes. And clearly, that's not true. Otherwise, it would still be here. And I think if we were to show this idea to the residents of Poolsville and beyond, and they say, will you shop here? Everybody will say yes, and then they won't. Yeah, I mean, it is, it really is, yeah. Now, do I think we should just not do this? No, of course, we have to, because we want to have Poolsville as a vibrant community, and certainly, you know, a food desert, as they call it sometimes, is not optimal for us, so, yeah, absolutely, I think we have to, and this is as a creative way as one could come up with, sure.
So I think, Jeff, and I appreciate what you're saying. I think what's really important also, though, it's really looking at the quality of the facility, the quality of what's sold there. And so I think doing this survey, this study rather, would really help look at the feasibility of do you move forward or not. And you look at, if you have the right thing, you can bring people to it. But it is also, in terms of a business or as the co-op, it would be on that co-op to make sure that the marketing is intact, that you look at what David's been able to do with locals and just grow that from where it started to where it is now. And so I think this feedback, and whether you have the co-op or if you have something else in town, at least the feedback will really look at what's feasible. And as we continue to even look at filling some of those holes in the strip malls, this really helps the town. It helps us to look at what are some factors that we need to see. Are there any blind spots that we might be missing? So, but I do understand your fear, because but it has to be attractive too. I think if you put the right thing, you can attract more people. And that's not only is it the products that you have, but it is the pricing too.
Well, and to Ed's point, you know, and to my point earlier, you know, the residents are very interested in this, and if we spend this money and this Dakota company comes and says, look, you know, there's not a market here, at least we can turn to that when everyone says, why isn't there a grocery store? We can say, you know, we did a, you know, thorough market study, and our population doesn't sustain it, and, you know, case closed, hopefully, for a while. The other, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Jeff. I think, you know, the economies of scale and, like, you know, are people going to, like, you know, just get their, like, bread and sugar here and, like, get everything else at, like, Harris Teeter or Walmart or whatever? Probably to some extent, but I think Ed's probably right, too. If it's done well, you know, and there's buy-in, you know, I think you have to try it.
Yeah, no, I agree. If I were to think of one thing that maybe has changed in our favor, in, you know, to make a co-op workable, I think it's, well, I hate to say it, but I think it's a pandemic, right? Because now a lot of people work from home. They're not passing by Harris Teeter or Safeway, you know, coming to and from work. They're, you know, they're working locally. And I think actually Preston mentioned that there's more traffic in town because people are working from home. There's more use of the parks, again, because people are more, you know, available and local rather than going off to work. So I think that could, you know, unfortunately, I think that kind of thing could work in our favor.
You guys, I got the ace in the hole here for you, so I can clear this up. And I know Link might be wanting to say the same thing. And by the way, I just texted all the pictures of the co-op, the Frederick Co-op, to everybody.
Impressive, yeah.
The key is this: it's member supported. If the town doesn't show up for it, then we're just going to be out what all of our initial investment is, but there won't be a brick put in the ground. There won't be a piece of produce brought in. It has got to be member supported. So we're going to have a chance, if this all comes to fruition and the market study says this makes sense, we as a town decide to do a little more investment to get us to the next level, we're going to know. And if it's ambivalent or it turns out it's just talk where, you know, we really, you know, where's our grocery store, you know, where's our White's Ferry? Don't get me started on all the ones. But if they're not ready to put their money behind what they want, and that you can see what the pictures of this looks like, then we've definitively found out for, I think, cheap money.
Yeah.
And it's over with at that point.
And, you know, from what you just sent me, like, it looks like the community involvement's going to be a big thing. It's not just going to be like a, you know, like a corporate chain where, you know, they don't really care about what's going on. Like, it's like, you know, Jim sent something that's got, like, you know, they're having like different community events and things. So it's, yeah, I think it could work.
So what else do we need in order to move forward?
Any other discussion from anybody, audience land? George, go ahead.
Just a mini market study. My wife and I were discussing at dinner tonight about the co-op and everything. I mean, when Selby's was here, I'm sure we spent 80 to 90% of our purchase was from Selby. But they didn't have everything. And sometimes Roy would order something for you, you know, if you knew you had enough lead time. But even now, my wife will go to Harris Teeter and say, oh, they don't carry this anymore, they don't carry that anymore, they don't have this size or this type and stuff. So she goes to Giant or Wegmans or something. So there is no perfect grocery store around.
Yeah.
And the beauty of the co-op is that if you've invested in it, either as an owner type thing or just a member, yeah, I think you're a little more inclined to shop there, at least, first opportunity type thing and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
We've heard time and time again from the people that do it that getting the community vested is absolutely a critical factor, which I said, we're going to give Poolsville the chance if this moves forward to put their money where their mouth is. So it's good to, you know, appreciate all the audience. Thank you to the commissioners for considering it. And
Do you want a motion, Jim?
And then
Yeah, I'll give you a
if someone
motion.
could give us a motion. Ed, go ahead.
Sure. All right, so I motion that we move forward with the study by the Dakota Worldwide Corporation, and that we would approve this sales order number PO 001.
Want to put a limit on that, too? Want to put a limit on that, you have a motion?
Yeah, sure, we're gonna put a limit for we'll go ahead and do the total right here.
Max travel.
With the change in there, that not to run over the 2,000, we put a cap on the travel.
Not to exceed.
Do we have to
Yeah.
identify the line item it's coming out of, Wade? No.
Yeah.
Just a bridge this real quick. We want to make that motion for $9,500 with a cap of $9,500 for the creation of that market analysis. Okay, good.
I
Yep.
second that motion.
So the motion then to the questions, boy, my mic's not on. We missed all that complicated crap. No, thank you for the minutes. We've made a motion to approve a proposal from Dakota Worldwide Corporation not to exceed $9,500 for the creation of a market analysis for a co-op. Motion's been made by Ed, second by Martin. Any other questions? Anything from anybody? Nope. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Okay, that has been done. Thanks again for everybody for listening and letting us kind of run with this for the time being. New business. Nonprofits meet and greet event. Are you prepared to talk about that, Ed?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what I mentioned at our last meeting is working with, take it easy, Dan. So one of the great idea was, how do we help the nonprofit organizations in Poolsville and those that are right around the peripheral of Poolsville to get to know each other, and then also how to help our residents get to know the services that our nonprofits have to offer. And so it's there are a lot of nonprofits here who don't know each other. And so what I'd like to really propose is that we as the town, we would take that lead in bringing them together, and that we would start off with a meet and greet of the nonprofits, probably do something over at Locals and let Niles, Kathy, Wade take the lead on it, but we would support that effort. So that's what I'd like to bring to us, to see what do we need, if you all would support that, and then what will we need, Wade, on this side in order to make it happen.
And would you see that as part of sort of that economic development fund, like investment, like where?
It's not necessarily the economic development, but I definitely see it as one of those pieces when we look at the town and we look at just the quality of life.
Sure,
We
I
look
was
at
just
that
thinking about
support.
budget-wise.
Yeah, budget-wise, well, I'm going to lean on Wade to look
Figure
at
out
where
where
we
that would
might,
fit in.
where that might be most appropriate to help. And then I did have some preliminary conversations with Wade and with Kathy, and even looking at where this effort could piggyback on some of the things we do with Fridays on the Commons, where those nonprofits could set up their table or their booth to connect with the residents and say, hey, we're Wamco, this is what we do. You know, we're so-and-so, we're the Lions Club, this is what we do. But that way it's not an extra burden or cost, but it becomes informational. But then the meet and greet piece is really where they can get to know each other. I had a chance to talk to David at Locals, and we talked about where some of the nonprofits go after grants, and then it can strengthen the nonprofits when they go after grants together, and that would make it even more favorable, more attractive to be able to do that. So if you have folks who complement each other, and they say, hey, let's go after a grant together, you can increase your probability of awarding those grants.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that possibly this might be an activity that the Poolsville Area Chamber of Commerce could take up, because, and the reason I say that, and I was just thinking off the top of my head, WUMCO, the Hope Garden Ballet, I know that's Essence Studio, but they have a branch that's 501c something, nonprofit called the Hope Garden Ballet, Community Farm Share, and there's actually quite a number of others, which I'm just not thinking of at the moment, who are members of the Poolsville Area Chamber of Commerce, and every month, the PACC has what they call the Businesses Helping Businesses Grow, and it takes place sometimes at local, sometimes at different places, at 8 o'clock on the first Thursday. And I think this might be, a really good idea for the Chamber of Commerce to have set aside one of those Thursdays or several of those Thursdays and have it have several of the nonprofits, and a lot of them attend anyway, but they could have like a little 10 or 15-minute chat about what they do, how they get grants and that kind of thing, which the others could maybe learn from or contribute to.
I think that would be something to weave into it. All right, but then that vision I would have is if the town takes that lead of, hey, this is what we're doing for some of our nonprofits here, because I think we have, between talking with Link and just doing some research, and I'm going to put Link's list together, Wade, with your list, but I think we have about 30 different organizations. And I know I've been to some of those breakfasts where each person has that time, but sometimes at 8 o'clock in the morning time is not always feasible for for some of them. Some can attend, some can't. But if we were to do like a meet and greet in the evening, afternoon, then I think we might get a favorable response. But it was a good suggestion, Jeff. Okay, Sarah?
I'm curious, because Jeff, I think you bring up a really good point, that they're already part of this organization together. So I'm curious about what they're not getting in that space that they're looking for, and kind of what would be their goals or hoped for outcome that is separate from sort of the networking maybe that happens.
I would probably
at
say
the-
because the idea was brought to me by a couple of the nonprofits.
Yeah, I mean, so clearly
So
it's
that-
not being met there,
that-
so yeah. I'm
Yeah, so
curious.
they're not really using that vehicle.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have
Is it town
some.
involvement maybe?
In terms of, well, town could take the lead in bringing folks together. So when I met with Ariana and Katie, Wamco and Story Tapestries, and so we sat there brainstorming, and the first question was, hey, how could we help the residents of Poolsville know the services that the nonprofits in the area provide? And then it turned in, well, do all the nonprofits know each other? And what could be something that a meet and greet where they can just get to know each other with no one trying to sell them anything, no one
Yeah.
trying to get them to make a purchase, but really a true, hey, this is who we are, this is what we do, and then make it something really special for our nonprofits. When we think about the services that they, especially Wamco and some of the other ones, the things that they do to add that little extra special to the town. And I think about even having this database of who they are, what they do, and looking at folks who might be in need when there's a disaster. You think the thing that Dan was talking about with that
Yeah.
neighbor. Imagine if we had this whole list and everyone, hey, you know what? These are the nonprofits. You need this. Carrie?
So I've
Alan.
sat on and currently sit on 3 nonprofits. We would need to have a lack of redundancy of, Wamco, another, food recovery. So if we had a list together like that, and grants are great, I've submitted grants through, some of your council members in support to move the one. but they only have a certain amount of money to distribute, and you don't want to have any kind of acrimony between, especially small town Poolsville, and they're all trying to take 5,000 here, 1,000 here, 3,000 there. It might cause a little tension, but again, it's just from my history of sitting on boards, because it's all in the sense of, it was politically driven a little bit. You just want to tone it down a little bit. I think it's a fantastic idea, Ed, for everybody, all the nonprofits to get along, because at the same time, they do need to lean on each other in certain situations. But it's a big task to take on, but I believe in this town as well. We've all been, a lot of these people have been here forever and been here for decades, but just, tread a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm,
And
Can
I,
I-
let me say, because I agree in that you would take it, you would tread lightly,
Yep.
but even just knowing who's who and who does what.
I think
Yeah.
it's a great,
All right.
it's a great idea.
Yeah. Good.
I'm hearing maybe two things. One is an opportunity to recognize, like honor, recognize these organizations that are contributing a lot to our community. And then second, it sounds like there's a lack of a platform to help the organizations communicate and support one another, and to help those organizations connect with people. Is that kind of like the two main
it's-
purposes
and-
then?
And so you look at it, there are three things. One is recognition. We definitely want to recognize the folks in our community who are doing a lot of awesome work. The second one is increase awareness of who's who and who's doing what, right? Then that third one is looking at how do you let the rest of the community know that these are some things right here in your own backyard. And so because there's some folks who might not know that WAMCO does this, or that here's some other things that the fire department might be doing. Here are some things that, like I said earlier, the the Lions Club, or the group that just sponsored the 3-on-3 basketball a couple of weeks ago. And so making sure that that information is shared, or that, hey, here's some awesome things that the Poolsville seniors are doing. All right. And so as folks look at knowing who's who, and then at the same time knowing that, did you know these are all the different things that are here? Because there might be families who might benefit from certain things that they didn't know was right here.
Cool.
So, Wade, your thoughts?
No, I agree. So I just got, okay, here's what we gotta do. First is identify all these folks, see how many there really are, and who they are, and then start from there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, post it and reach out and see if we
We can assemble a list similar to the list that we put together for all of our events, and have it be, take some time, build it, and then host that event, and really have the people network and talk to each other about who they are and what they're doing.
Right.
So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Maybe it could be done locals, but, we probably want a forum that is, or a location where,
Depends how many people we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
And we won't know till we, yeah,
So-
we'll look at it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's good. It's a good way to tie things in that's not, that's, hanging out on the fringes all the time. So
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
all right. So I'll cross-reference the list and put it in a spreadsheet. I'll share with you what I have, you see what you have, and take it from
Yeah,
there.
then just don't wanna miss anybody.
Yeah, and so then, I like Jim's idea too, in terms of posting. So our next steps, I'll share with you what I got, and I'll look at what you got. And then we'll see, hey, who are we, maybe missing? And then what we could do is, once combine the two lists, that's a start point. And then once we have a start point and we say, okay, here's something we like to do, let's look at where we might want to do it. And then we can also reach out to see, is there anybody that we're missing?
Yeah, we were talking about that,
Yeah,
Yeah, and make that part of the communication
Yeah.
that we send out, and like those emails we were talking about have this as being one of
Yep.
the centerpieces. And then reaching out to other, another idea that just came to me now was, nonprofits Montgomery, and see if they have a list by geography too. And that's
about
another
zip code
resource.
and,
Mhm.
yeah. All right.
Cool.
The direction continues. Thanks, Ed. Good stuff. Naming of Westerly Grove Park, George Deo Park. Wade, I'm sure it's
Okay.
you, buddy.
Yes, this is a recommendation from the Parks Board. Westerly Grove Park is now complete. And we know George Deo served on the Parks Board for 14 years. He also was a umpire for several years, coached UMAC for several years, did things for PAA for several years. So he's really been involved in the sports community with our youth for just years and years, and I'm probably missing things. But the recommendation is to name the Westerly Grove Park to George Deo Park.
That's a recommendation for the Parks Board?
Yes, sir.
Great. Yeah, yep, there's a lot of things that George did in his time, so, and not a resident anymore, but certainly deserves to have a park named after him. Jeff, you look like you're chomping at the bit. You got input. Yeah,
Well, I recommend that we
microphone.
name the Westerly Grove Park after Mr. George Dale Park.
Yeah, I just have a quick
Yeah, go.
point. I'm
Sure.
gonna be that guy here.
Be that guy.
How many parks do we have that are named after women? One?
Lori Gore Park, yeah, I think that is it.
Seems like we could, maybe make more of an effort, when half the town is women. It seems like it's a little lopsided to be, all men.
I agree.
I don't know, just a thought.
That's not being that guy.
That's being that advocate.
You have any recommendations, or?
Could we maybe, take a beat?
At Paxima Park?
No. No, I mean, I have some ideas, but I also feel like I would want to talk to a few people first. or
There's,
do a little
there are
research,
more,
so-
there's gonna be more opportunities. I
Yeah, or
think
maybe that too. Maybe it's
Yeah.
just, this is, I don't have any strong feelings.
It's not
like-
our last park.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But
I
I
mean,
do think your point is really important, Martin.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
I have no problem voting to in favor of naming this one after this gentleman. Sounds like he certainly deserves it, but I really would like to see, maybe you guys could make an effort. I mean,
It's an excellent point.
yeah.
Yep, no
Yeah.
question.
There is a policy called the Parks and Streets Naming Policy, and it gives some requirements in terms of service to the community, service to the town, and that kind of thing, so.
Yeah, it's good. Okay,
We need a motion if we're gonna do this. Or do we? Yeah, we do. Yep.
I did that.
You made a motion, did you make a motion? You just didn't object to Martin's, discussion point? Okay, good. So motion was made by Jeff. Do we have a second? Somebody fix me on this one. Did we have a second?
We did not. I'll second.
Thank you. Motion by Jeff, second by Ed. Any other discussion on it besides Martin's good point and all of our agreement on Martin's good point? Nothing? All in favor of approving the motion, name Westwood Grove Park, George Deo Park, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Very good. All right, thanks for that, Commissioners. FY 2024 budget presentation, we need to set a public hearing for that tonight. Do you have your dates up on your calendar? Oh, look, there it is.
Yes, give me 1 second.
Yeah. The TV is on.
And I hope the audience can see this. Not that great. Yeah, we'll get to the dates in a second, yeah.
So, well, before we get to that, as you guys probably know, that we've gone over this draft budget, several versions of it, before it even got to the commissioners. Commissioners had a work session on it, which a couple of little changes were made to it. The essential parts of the budget is that our tax rate stays the same as it is in FY 2020, as it was in 2023, as well as our water rates stay static and do not change.
Okay, so with that, we'll get right into it. So we'll take a look at the general fund revenue. And just like Jim said, this year we do propose to maintain the constant property tax rate of 17.81 cents per $100 of assessment. And that will generate almost $1.9 million. The downtown does continue to receive 17% of the income taxes that are collected in our jurisdiction. And that has sharply increased over the past few years, and every year we had a huge jump, but it's starting to flatten out a little bit. Obviously more homes are being built once Westerly Grove was finished, and so it's kind of flatlined from last year to this year. But it's still about $1.8 million we received there. Highway user funds have gone up. Revenue sharing, we know it did go up. There was a bill that was passed last year with the push for MML. So next couple of years, that's going to be increased also a little bit more. So the total revenue really we're projecting is a little over $5 million for the fiscal year '24. So as far as the expenditures of those funds, we have budgeted in for funding for general projects, $641,000. The general fund also pays for all the water and sewer capital projects, and we're looking at about a $613,000 there. And operating expenses, which is the largest chunk, $3.8 million for that. So the total expenditures are a little over $5 million, so the annual balance we're projecting right now is about $31,000. Breaking down what the operating expenses are, because they are the biggest chunk of what our budget funds, includes everything from the town administration, the trash contract that we just approved, park maintenance, street lights, street trees, electrical for the municipal buildings, and so on. Salaries are a big part of that, and this year does project a 6.5 CPI increase for the employees. It also pays for debt service, whether it be a water, sewer, or general fund, and we only have one debt left after this year. We fund community outreach programs, the comprehensive plan, we're still funding that, not a big chunk, but still funding it. And then all the community events, from the fireworks to Poolsville Day, community share, several things that we've talked about. Taking a look at the general capital projects, we have several different categories that we do fund. Everything from just the basic maintenance we do in town hall, replacement of the HVACs are going to happen this year, and other technology upgrades, like finally get the system done in this room here. Mowers, tractors, and trucks, so we all have a specified cycle for replacements. Fisher Avenue streetscape's going to be a big one this year. Wayland Park electrical upgrades, we're doing electrical out there. The park replacement funds, Hamels restroom, a lot of park stuff this time, from the pickleball courts to the basketballs and from concession stands, so really investing quite heavily into our park systems again. And then we accumulate funds every year, about $425,000 for road paving projects that every other year they happen. And speed humps. On the water and wastewater side, so we try to make this a self-sufficient fund, and projections for '23 look like we're going to do that and have some money left over. For the revenue, we're looking at about $1.8 million to run the fund, and operating expenses we're projecting, because we had some increases in a couple of different categories, maybe a negative $10,000 balance, but that's such a small variance that the amount of rain we receive in springtime will change that, because if we get more rain, you're using more electricity to pump and people use less water. You have a dry spring, people are pumping more water and you use less of the wastewater plant. So that small variance is nothing to worry about now, since we do have an adequate fund coming out of this year that's projected. And there's no water increases, that's right, like Jim said. So breaking down what do we actually spend the funds on for operating, certainly all the administration, which is the phones and the we have call-out alarms with all the pump stations and wells and things, let us know if things are going wrong. Electricity, chemicals, maintenance, sludge hauling, which is a very expensive one. We all talk about this each year. We have to haul to Pennsylvania landfill, and it's very regulated, so you don't have much choice in doing that. Water testing actually went up quite a bit this year with the PFAS that we have going on, and then salary increases for those guys also. As far as the capital projects here that the general fund also funds, we do a lot of stuff with our water system we talked about earlier. We do the water valve replacements, the PFAS remediation, and I should say, I wanted to speak to this a little bit. The PFAS that we have in the budget now in the next couple of years is really only for wells 2 and 3. Depending on how the EPA comes out, we have 3 other wells we may have to do something with. And we can use the American Rescue Fund monies with that, depending on how much we actually invest in the water lines. So we may be looking at taking out a low-interest loan from MDE, the state revolving loan at some point, and hopefully it's going to be around 1.2 to 2% interest is what we've gotten in the past. So I see that just looming out there. It's probably something we're going to have to address.
And just to reiterate a piece of history too, that's the way we've always done infrastructure up until recent times, when the Fed stepped in and really gave us some major funding. Town staff was always great at knocking down very, very low interest, long-term loans. It makes a lot of sense. It's total investment into everything that's underground. So it won't be a step off of the rails for us. It'll be something that we've done forever.
We also have heavy investments in our wastewater plant from doing the roof, the denitrification upgrade, which is $8 million. Most of it, over $7 million was paid for by grants, and we had a matching component with it. And certainly, once that's all completed, we're going to paint the whole pipe gallery and the inside of it also, which is fairly expensive also. And again, we have the trucks for the wastewater and water guys, they're 10-year replacement cycles. Hydrants we're going to replace. And then we have regular equipment that we talk about the road saw the guys are going to need this year. And water meters, and there's always different lab equipment we have to use for in-house lab testing that we do. And then also, right there, the replacement of water lines that we spoke of before, and that's that $2.9 million we're going to transfer over there and start that process this year. And then the sewer line repairs, why they are getting less and less as far as the funding stream goes, because we really are getting down to the end of it, what we needed to replace. So that's in good shape. So overall budget, with the constant tax rates and no water rate increased fees, the budget really addresses the priorities of the commissioners, and we have an adequate reserve fund in place. This full document for the budget itself is available online. We put it out on a news flash, so it's out there for anybody, and we do need to set a public hearing for April 3rd.
Is this presentation
Presentation available, or will be available, this presentation in
Sure.
particular be available online?
Yep.
Okay. Can you send me the link when you do that so I can put it out there to everybody? Appreciate it.
Set the public hearing?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we set a public hearing date for the
FY '24.
FY 2024 budget,
FY '24.
FY 24 budget for April 3rd, 2023?
Yep, very good. So we have a motion to set a public hearing for the FY '24 budget for April 3rd, 2023. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I second the motion.
Second from Ed. Any other questions?
Well, I have a question, but it's
Yep.
not about the motion. Don't we have an obligation to put aside, I think it's unrestricted funds, a certain percentage every year?
17.5% of the revenue projected for that year, and we do have over that right now.
Okay, but I didn't see that in the paper here.
No, I just said it, but we did it, on our work session, it was on there, and it is in the actual budget that is posted online.
Okay, so it's 17% of the,
17.5 of the estimated revenue.
okay, swell, thank you.
Right, and that is something that can be reviewed or changed by the commissioners, but that's kind of been our static line for now. I can't remember where we lowered it at one point, didn't we? George Link, you guys were probably
We did, and when
around.
Bryce Hallbrook was
Yeah, he's like,
commissioner,
too much
and
money.
They came up with a calculation after one of the MML meetings with budget financing, and
Yeah.
they came back with that.
Yeah, we brought it down. Just made sense. Okay, good. Well, we have a motion. We have a second. Any other questions? All in favor of setting that public hearing date, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Okay, approved 5-0. Thanks, Wade. Anything else on that aspect? Town managers report?
Okay, well, I was gonna talk about Jason Woodman and his Eagle Scout project, but two of you already talked about it, so that is a Saturday. March 29th, there will be another Wellness Wednesday here in Town Hall at 6:30 PM, and this one's on eye health with Dr. Mevison. Niles and Kathy have been doing a great job on the summer camp, progressing, doing policies and procedures and getting stuff submitted to the state, so it looks like it's gonna happen. Okay, we do need a couple things. I think Kathy was gonna reach out to you.
I was out of town, I just got back today, so.
Okay, right, she really wants to find out if the Upper Montgomery County Fire Department can do EpiPen training. That's one. Okay, so that's certainly one thing, that's one of the requirements that we have to get knocked off, our two directors have to have that, so you probably have an email, so you just answer it back and we can square that away. We had our kickoff Fisher Avenue Streetscape meeting with the state today. And, we were all hopeful that we were gonna be getting underway soon. Well, with the federal requirements that strings that come along with this grant that we received, the design review and bidding process alone could take up to 2 years. So we'll be fortunate if we can even begin construction around the summer of 2025.
That'll be, what, probably a 20% reduction in the
bang for the buck at that point?
Well, it's hard to say, for real, but, so,
That's
that's not even the
ridiculous.
worst of it. They
Oh, there's
also,
more.
So we know, we have had our engineering company here for 20-some years, John and the folks, and it's changed names over the years, but one requirement they have for the design is that it goes through an adequate bidding process with special federal requirements. So we don't know if they're gonna meet that, we don't know, so we may have to go out and bid out the engineering aspect of it before we can even begin the design of it. So we're putting together documents, I mean, that's happened today, so by tomorrow, I'm gonna have the documentation, we pulled it all up of, kind of the lineage of how the contract was awarded and passed on when the companies changed names and bought out. And, see if we can twist an arm and argue the point as best we can. So, anyways, it's not gonna happen tomorrow.
But you'll move as quickly as you can.
We will.
Thank you. And sorry to hear.
Yes. Well, just wanna set the expectations. Really, that's all I have. Any questions?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
It was reserved for the question part of it.
I
Motion,
second.
motion, second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, Wade.
At 6 o'clock.